Just before we start with this video, I'd like to thanks to all of you that subscribed, and I also wanted to mention I will be doing a custom A4 anime portrait for one lucky subscriber, Sue. Make sure you are on a lookout for this. Anyways, let's begin. Today we are going to be talking about Berserk of Gluttony in a nutshell. The genre of this anime is fantasy action, and the graphics are not too bad, as one would expect from a 2023 anime. We start off with the main character, Fate, who is absolutely ripping through these goblins, and then we get a flashback to what I'm guessing was him just a few days ago. To be honest, it doesn't really say. We just see Fate in front of a gate that he is guarding, and we discover he has a skill called Gluttony, which he calls pathetic because he's always starving and barely has any money for food. Some baddies come through to bully him. They are holy knights, but the bad kind, and they pretty much just show off how weak he actually is and how inferior they are compared to him. However, he gets saved by another main character called Roxy Hart, a holy knight. Later that night, he sees a thief jumping a wall and runs to tell Roxy. She runs off to fight the thief. However, the thief manages to escape right through the gate that Fate is guarding, and with some luck, Fate manages to kill him. In shock, his skill just updated, but he doesn't really know what happened, thinking he's crazy for hearing some voices. Later that night, he discovers that his abilities have updated, and he has gained some skills, thinking he's not as useless as he was before. The next day, he decides to go hunting for some monsters but needs a sword. While looking for one, he encounters a sword that talks to him, which turns out to be one of the mortal sin weapons, greed, and ends up buying it. After that, he goes to hunt for some goblins. After witnessing the aftermath of the gluttony skill, which shows how much he has improved and how he has become a more formidable force. Fasting forward a bit, he manages to save this little girl from an orphanage. He ends up being a little conflicted with his emotions, powers, and guilt over the consumption of another human, but it was for a good cause in the end. He joins Miss Hart as a servant, but she ends up being sent to Gallia, although she still has some time before she has to depart. Because of Fate's gluttony skill, he has been sneaking out to keep his hunger at bay by killing monsters at night. He manages to upgrade his sword to the magic bow, a very powerful one at that. The more he kills, the more he will eventually have to slay to feed his hunger. It seems more like a curse, not an easy skill to have, I guess. He gains the nickname The Corpse and tries to level up before leaving Roxy's household. As she gets sent to Gallia, which is a land filled with powerful monsters, Fate kills one of the holy knights who used to bully him and was involved in Miss Roxy being sent off to Gallia as punishment by the other knights who didn't like that she was helping Fate, getting his revenge. And to be fair, no one liked the guy anyway. He deserved it. This is where his journey begins, and he sets off across the country, saving a village where his father was buried. Fate ends up escorting a carriage, where he gets intercepted by bandits. This is where he meets a strong, mysterious female from Gallia, who jumps in and wipes the bandits out with ease. It turns out she has the deadly sin weapon, similar to Fate's, called Sloth, and possesses the mortal skill of Wrath. Her name is Mine, and she is usually asleep and lazy, probably due to her weapon, but she and Fate manage to get along quite well while fighting when encountering challenges and powerful monsters. After Fate goes out hunting on his own and kills the sand golem, he gains newfound attention and respect. They set off on another journey to another village, where he gets confronted by a powerful holy knight who agrees to teach Fate, but not just against monsters, as he is used to. From what I found, his name is Aaron Barbatos, which is the same surname as Fate's, so could he be his father? Does he know? Fate senses some powerful monster coming from the castle nearby. Later on we see a painting of Aaron, his son, and his wife, and his son does look exactly like Fate but blonde. We get some shenanigans between Fate and Mine, just adding some comedy to the serious vibe. Over dinner, Aaron explains his story and what happened at the castle, and Fate and Aaron decide to go off to the castle to slay this mysterious monster. As they slay some dead, they enter a room with a mirage of Aaron's family, but this is just an illusion spell. A fight breaks out, ending with Fate trying to find the Lich who is behind this spell. Otherwise, if he consumes his family, they would suffer for eternity. Fate manages to defeat the Lich, allowing Aaron's family to finally rest after being possessed. We get a happy ending, but does this mean Fate is not his son? Unless there is more to the lore, which might be included in Season 2, but I don't want to spoil too much, even though I am. However, Aaron does tell Fate to come and see him after he is done with his journey, because he has something to tell him. Oh well, moving on. Fate gains some extra powers from the Lich, and Mine kind of blackmails Fate to pay his debt to her, and they hitch a ride to a forgotten village, where a cocoon, which is a chimera, lies. This chimera has a human as a core, but is just a diversion, at least for now. They try to fight the chimera, but the creature evolves, becoming one of the biggest challenges they face. They create a good dynamic duo while fighting this mad creature, and Fate demonstrates his gluttony skill abilities, showing he is no pushover. He ends up getting this terrifying visual transformation, destroying and consuming one of his own. Following this major victory, Fate begins to see the darker aspect of his ability. We get a little cheeky hug as Mine promises to kill Fate if he ever loses control and goes berserk. Mine tells him to be careful, and they each head separate ways. Fate enters the city of Babylon but hides in a crowd from which he sees Miss Roxy. But behind him, he senses another sin, but doesn't know who it is yet. Roxy is introduced to some soldiers, while Fate explores the city, finds a sheath for his sword. But it turns out to be too expensive, about 500 gold, too frickin' expensive. So he goes hunting and tries to prove his strength and what he has learned from Eren. He ends up using his newly leveled sword, which is now a shield, and completely wipes out a pack of orcs with no trouble. After returning to town, he tries to cash in his loot, but some adventurers get involved, accusing him of stealing their loot. But in reality, he didn't, and he absolutely destroys them in the guild. Roxy appears but doesn't recognize him because of the mask. It was self-defense, and Fate just runs off. While walking down the street, a blacksmith offers him a deal to wear his gear to promote his name. Fate receives some new gear and gets hungry while looking for a meal, encountering the person whose presence he felt in the crowd, called Eris, who possesses the power of lust. They have a chat, which ends with her telling Fate about the fate that Miss Roxy will die. We can see Fate disagrees and walks off to stop this atrocity, but before that, Fate sets off to Gallia to get some magic crystals for the sheath. Fate has a dream, a vision, of the Haniel's core, a vision filled with blood and the people he has killed. Roxy, while in Gallia, gets surrounded by salamanders that are controlled by some unknown force, but Fate manages to save her just in time. We learn there is a dragon on the loose, and Fate goes to investigate, finding a graveyard where he encounters Eris, who is looking at a chimera but has no core. Eris disappears. Suddenly, an explosion goes off where Lady Roxy is based, and Fate runs off to save her. Roxy and Fate team up to defeat the two chimeras. A bit of fighting happens, and we get some cool action as Fate and Lady Roxy put an end to the two chimeras, but just before they can defeat the second one, they fall through the floor into a cave. After a bit of chat and a romantic moment, Fate's gluttony skill shows, and he runs off, trying to prevent Roxy from seeing. This leads him to run into the chimera monster, but he manages to slay it with ease. All ends well. Roxy gets reunited with her comrades, and we get a sneak peek of what is probably a new Sin character. After a month goes by, Roxy challenges Fate to a fight for her to join the Knights, but he refuses. She makes him fight, and Fate ends up losing because of a gem he gave to Roxy a while back, which she turned into a necklace. I mean, how? He could easily win but lost just because of a necklace? Fast forward, and Fate aims for the next level of strength in another land, but suddenly an alarm sounds, warning of a colossal stampede attacking the city in a death march, which Lady Roxy goes against. But a second threat comes swooping in, which Fate prepares to take out with his bow. We see another monster, with the same mark as the salamanders that tried to kill Lady Roxy before, and of course Fate has saved her, but anyways. A big slime spits acid at him, but he shields it off. However, the monster duplicates but has only one core. After the slime tries to run off by nearly being eradicated, we encounter another deadly sin, envy. The stakes just went up, and Fate is in a pickle. Trying to fight off envy, which is in another level of power, the domain called E, Fate gets hurt and transforms his gluttony skill into the E dimension, slicing Envy's mask, revealing it to be Northen, who controls the divine dragon that's heading for Lady Roxy, as Eris predicted. Fate jumps in just in time to shield her, blocking the strike, but his mask gets destroyed, and Roxy finds out who the corpse really is. With a cliffhanger, he ends up unlocking the secret art of his weapon, but Roxy gets intimidated by his power of gluttony. Just before Fate ends up running off and facing the dragon, he faces Envy at the same time. He ends up freezing the dragon in time while fighting Northen, which results in Fate losing his arm but managing to stab Northen in the heart, which is just mad. He uses illusion, losing his arm but managing to pierce enemy's heart, leading to another vision from Luna, the Haniel's core, which explains to him that by defeating the dragon, he will lose himself, a difficult decision to make. However, Fate still ends up fighting the dragon, launching the sword at it, cutting its wings off, and combining skills to slay the divine beast. Devouring the dragon, his gluttony skill goes berserk, but he manages to upgrade his weapon in order to prevent catastrophe. We see Mine walk into the picture trying to keep her promise, but Lady Roxy intervenes, saving Fate from getting executed. Roxy, crying over him, spills her feelings for him, and his gluttony skill calms down, saving him and others. Seems like a happy ending? However, after some time resting, when he wakes up, Eris and Mine invite themselves to Fate's room with a proposition that can't be left unresolved. He leaves Lady Roxy a goodbye letter, stating he will be with her one day. The end. And that is the Berserk of Gluttony in a nutshell. Overall, I mean, it's not bad. Maybe if there was more fighting, it would be even better. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a solid 8. If you'd like to see more videos like this, leave a like and a comment, and make sure to subscribe to my channel. I will be doing a giveaway of a custom anime glass painting for one lucky subscriber. It also depends on when this is going to be posted, either Friday or Monday. So make sure to be on the lookout if you'd like to enter this competition. Until then, peace.